Do you, do you want us? I know. What the heck? No, we can just kind of generally discuss. Yeah. You want to kind of say what you were talking about or just kind of mention?
I know Guy is missing from the board meeting right now, but I think we should move on so we can get things in. We talked about rules of order and decorum and etiquette at a board meeting. And I had shared this list of items with you last board meeting, or when we had maybe had the special board meeting. But anyway, Lori put that out there as a Word doc if any of you had questions or concerns. I know Amber did a request for policy. You all have a copy of the policy. We talked about that. We have policies, but we do not have rules of order at a board meeting. And I just want to say this first. The primary purpose of a school board's work session or business meeting is to conduct public business in an orderly and efficient manner. Any words or conduct that interrupt, disturb, or disrupt this orderly conduct of business are out of order. It is a business meeting of the seven of us. And if we want someone to speak, the president would call on them, whether it be an administrator, a teacher, or whatever. But that's to me, that's how a board meeting should flow. But then it talks about other things there. There was one item that I thought we really should add. If a board member during the business meeting part of the session wants to ask a patron to come to the mic or calls on them for a reason, they should not personally call on that person from the audience to come forward or ask them a question. They should give that request to the president, and the president decides if they want to bring them to the mic. I don't know how to word that, but yeah. Where's it at? There you go.
Where's that?
The last sentence in that fifth bullet. Yeah, this was after it went out
Oh, so
as
can
a
I have
working
new
draft.
one then? I know you were passing out. I didn't get one of the ones passed out because I had one.
This is the copy I gave you last week. This is online.
I printed out the one that came on email, but I don't have the one that's got more stuff in it.
When Patty met with me, we sat down and discussing and said, okay, do you want this here or not? That's why she really left the see.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Thanks.
And we might change it though,
Yeah, that's the thing. We
Right,
may wordsmith
right.
through the,
Okay, so we won't print it yet, yeah, okay.
so you may want to go through bullet point by bullet point, Madam President, and
Sure.
see if
That'd be a great
anybody wants to
idea.
make a change or grammatical error.
Okay, so we start with the primary purpose of the school board's work sessions and business meetings is to conduct public business in an orderly and efficient manner. Any words or conduct that interrupt, disturb, or disrupt in the orderly conduct of business are out of order. And this will be the document that we read at each board meeting, as well as have as a handout to those who sign up to speak, as well as anyone who attends. And we will also read this at the beginning of the board meeting if the board so chooses. So I just need guidance and direction on that as well.
I'd like to say something about that first bullet point. I think the way we open this document sets the tone, and it needs to be inviting and welcoming. Thank you so much for coming to the board meeting. We welcome your input. You are the community who directs the whole tone needs to be set as inviting and welcoming to the community. This is kind of off-putting. This is kind of, I don't know, makes people defensive when they read it. I don't like the way that it portrays that we think the worst of whoever's here.
At the town hall, we had more of the welcoming to the public. And so
Right.
this is for our monthly school board business meeting, if that makes a difference. So
Which is what they're supposed to observe and be part of.
To me, a business meeting, the open session business meeting, monthly meeting, is not for the public to be a part of. They can be here and listen to the seven of us discuss the business items on the agenda. Yes, if they want to speak to the board, they can request to speak to an agenda item. But other than that, they should not be speaking out or talking out of turn.
right.
That disrupts a business meeting, of any
Right.
business meeting.
Right.
And I will say that in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've never seen so many people from the patrons being disorderly and speaking out during our business meeting and sometimes being very rude. So I just believe that it's time that we, as professionals, set up rules of decorum, how our meeting will be ran. Yes, they do have an opportunity to speak to us at the part of during request of the district patrons at the beginning of the meeting. Other than that, unless they're called on by the president, I do not believe that they need to be shouting out or interrupting our business board meeting.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. I just think the tone that we're setting needs to be welcoming for the first few sentences. Then if we want to address problems that have happened with our rules, we can. Something like that.
It with, we're happy you're here, but we have rules.
and I'd be glad to welcome everyone to the school board meeting
mean, I
before
know
I,
you would.
yeah.
And Sarah does that every board meeting. She welcomes
does.
everybody,
You
and
do a
she
good job
opens
with
with that.
Right, she
And she
does.
could open with that verbally. It doesn't have
there
to
could-
be written down as the rules. She can open with that and then the steps of the order. That's my opinion.
That's fine. I'm just commenting about the tone that it gives to the people who read it. She does. I'm talking about this thing, the tone it gives to the people who read it when they come in.
This is the rules. The tone is, you are welcome to come. This is a public meeting, but we are here to conduct business, and these are the rules we have to follow. Because everybody should be expected to treat others with respect, and that's what we're demanding. How many times have we been in these meetings since I've been on the board where people are talking and people are saying things that are rude? And I mean, you go back and watch, I have said multiple times, I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was getting ready to say. I've said it at least twice while people were saying hateful things.
Yeah,
and
they shouldn't be talking.
And that's what we're talking about doing, is we just want to make sure that everybody understands this is a business meeting and that they have to conduct themselves as such.
I guess I'm thinking about as a teacher in a classroom, at the beginning of the year, you set the tone for the classroom and you say, here are the rules for, and you don't even call them rules, you say, here's the guidelines, we're gonna all show respect to each other. You say it in a positive way to encourage the kind of atmosphere that you want there.
You should do that for children, but these are adults that are coming in too, that they should be doing it and they're not.
So even more, should we show them respect?
But they're not.
We set the tone, that's all I'm saying.
We are setting the tone by doing multi-town halls too, by saying your voices. We're doing multi-town halls to say your voices should be heard. We want them to come to these. There's a lot of people who are complaining about coming to our meetings that other people are being rude and saying cuss words in the meeting out there.
And that
that's
should
what-
not be allowed even
And
one
that's what,
time.
that's what we're trying to say here.
Right, but our document that we hand to every single person who comes in, we don't want it to look like we're being strict and stern and putting them on the defense. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think people are gonna look at it and go, oh, thank goodness. But I don't want, I get it, but we have to set rules. We have to set boundaries.
Yes, we do.
So what, you want these rules, you just want them to sound nicer?
No, I just want there to be an introduction that
Well,
sets the tone.
would you
of
like to
being
add the words
positive.
welcome to the board meeting?
Lori, could you put in there, we welcome all patrons to these meetings. We have a few ground rules. Remember, this is a business
Good.
meeting.
What about so in some ways, just gonna, she's doing it there, but more of a heading title page. When I look at it, I can say if I was reading it, it does look like just words on the page and I might not read it even, but it could say, welcome to Ozark board meetings or whatever. That could be
Yeah.
that could be, it doesn't have to be a whole nother paragraph, because I don't want another paragraph for
just
people to
another
read
sentence.
because
Right.
they're not, especially we talk
Good.
about it being posted at the door or or whatever. So
Good,
it's
yeah.
not, it's not a greeting, not a formal letter. It's not, so where I agree, but I agree there's a way to dress it up and make it look like it's something I'm gonna read, whether it's,
Okay.
Yeah.
We welcome the patrons to the Ozark Board of
Yep, and then we go into the
Good,
primary purpose, okay. And then, yeah, the next part, during request of district patrons, patrons with an S, I guess, or whatever, either one, I don't know, must sign up prior to the start of the meeting. And speakers offering public comment must limit their comments to the time, 3 minutes, allotted, and comply with all aspects of the board's public comment policy. Citizens are reminded that children regularly attend school board meetings and are asked to calibrate their words and conduct accordingly.
I love that last part. That was good. Calibrate their words and content.
Yeah.
There's a typo. It's 5 minutes. It's 5. Remember the policy change, just the spring, policy BDDH-1.
we've been doing 3 minutes at the meetings.
Well, it says 5 minutes in the policy. Here, let me see. BDDH-1. It's on the last page.
We may,
Let me see.
I don't know, but, well, so. Whatever the policy, yeah, we'll do that, five
Oh, it's in the
minutes.
middle with all those numbers. It's on the second page in the middle, number 7.
I think that
Number
could just say
7.
to the time allotted.
Yes.
Let's take the,
Yeah,
just
very
make
good.
it the time allotted.
Yeah,
But we need to make sure it's 5 minutes because that's what it says in here. Yes. It's, public comment is supposed to be uniform. Number 3, on the last page, it says the board will establish a uniform time limit, meaning the same for everyone who wants to speak. And under number 7 up above, it says they get 5 minutes. So everybody gets 5
I know.
minutes.
so, and yes, and usually people go over, we allow that anyway, but I mean, so we just need to go with what the policy, we can add that to an agenda if we want to look at that later, so, yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Right,
because because if there's a uniform where we had to make a decision, if we had 20 people signed up, we're probably not going to give them all 5 minutes.
right, yeah,
And it says that in the policy.
yeah,
too.
and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
so,
But we need to make sure when we're timing people that they actually get 5 minutes.
sure,
I don't know who does that, but
yeah. And
Mark's the
then-
timekeeper.
Yes, he
We've been
is.
giving him 5
Mark
minutes,
is the
Mark.
timekeeper. Yeah. Let's see here.
Give them one.
Any speaker addressing the board. Yeah. Mhm. Let's see, where are we here? I'm reading off.
the third one
Okay,
down.
all meeting, oh, wait, a speaker may, she's got a speaker may not approach up here. Yeah. Yeah, we did. A speaker may not approach the board at any time during the meeting.
What's that? Any
So that's
speaker
when they have
addressing-
handouts and such. We can have them give,
Hmm. I disagree with that because I like to look at it, like we just had a presentation in there. I like to look at the handout while it's being discussed. I don't agree with that at all.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay. Do we want them to approach us with the handouts?
To give them to the secretary.
Okay, and then the
they should be
secretary will
handed
hand them to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Do you think prior to the meeting needs to be on there? Do you think prior to the meeting needs to be on there or not? I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, good.
Secretary dismissed the board, yep. Okay. All meeting attendees must refrain from speaking out of turn while the meeting is underway unless called upon by the president or vice president to offer public comment during the public address portion of the meeting.
Attendees should.
Attendees should quietly observe the proceedings.
That's where you add in that part about if a board member wants to
Here.
Because that kind of follow, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's in there? I can't see. Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know
That's
about
what it
that part
says.
either.
Oh.
That kind of goes against the policy too. BDDH-1. There's something in our policy about that too. Board members may ask the resident questions, seek additional information from the superintendent or designee, or otherwise discuss the topic.
But you should ask the president to do that. You shouldn't say,
Oh,
Dennis Fod, I want to ask you a question. No, I shouldn't do that. I should turn to the
because she's
president. and say,
facilitating the meeting. Are we gonna kind of start doing that when we talk? It's gonna be hard for me to remember. I want to remember though. Are we gonna say, Madam President, and wait to be called on before we talk? And
No, you can talk in here, but if you want to talk to a patron out there,
Oh.
it needs to go through the president.
This would be when they're, like when we, well, the two instances I can think of are when guy from Steve Wolf.
Yeah,
when
see,
when
he was in error.
Yep,
He
that
was
was
in
an error, and then
I went-
when we asked Mr. Ramos to speak, when he was not at the podium already during his time, like if he was there speaking and we
Ask a question.
no, we're not supposed to ask him while they talk. We're supposed to wait until the agenda item comes up and then we can ask him. after
But you
he's
asked
talked.
him directly and you should have went through the president to do that.
Right, but
That's
that
what
was
I'm
the
saying.
right time to ask him, was on the agenda item, not
Right,
when he was up there
right.
talking.
I just say, well, yeah, rather than all of us calling different people, I guess, rather than.
Or if it could be Mark.
That's a great idea.
That way she's leading the meeting, she's
Yes.
facilitating. the meeting.
I agree.
Shouting, threats, and acts of violence are strictly prohibited, as are any words or conduct that may be their nature and are likely to provide the average person to retaliate and thereby cause a breach of the peace.
What is it? I can't. Oh, thank you. My old eyes over here. I didn't get a copy you gave because I had one I had printed out earlier. Okay, my Google Drive isn't open, I guess. Yeah. Mhm. I like to look at it over here because Eric is changing it as we go. Is that all right? I'll just keep looking. Oh, on here too. Okay. Sorry. Oh, even better.
I don't know, I couldn't find the email, that's why I did.
Yeah, good. Okay, right there, good. Oh, good. Oh, excellent. Okay. So, good. So shouting conducts, okay.
Okay.
And that by their nature are likely to provide the average, what does that mean? Likely to provide the average person to retaliate. You mean provoke? Is that supposed to be?
Provoke, yeah, PR. Will change up. Yeah, it should be, yeah.
Should be,
Okay.
it should be provoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, change it to, yeah, not that, or, but Nella, read the sentence now. As any words or conduct by their nature that are likely to provoke the average person to retaliation and thereby cause a breach of the, okay,
We
Okay.
don't have a verb in that sentence.
yeah.
What about those things? The shouting, the threats, and the act of, oh, are strictly prohibited. Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Ready to move on?
What's that? If you click on those 9 dots up by your, in the top right. I'm in the email. Tech support.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
If a patron interrupts or shouts out during the business board meeting, the president should stop the meeting and state to the patron that they are out of order. Okay. If the patron continues, the president can ask the person to leave the meeting. If the patron does not leave and continues, the president should call for a recess. The full board will walk out of the room, and at that time, the SRO on duty will escort the person out of the building.
Do you think we need the first clause of that last sentence, the full board will walk out of the room? I don't think so. That's kind of disruptive, waste a lot of time. We can just sit here while they walk out, right?
If you take the problem out of, I mean, if you take us, the listeners, that are trying to yell at or whatever, out of the room, it ceases what they're wanting to say.
They're
When it
trying to
gets to that
de-escalate
point,
it.
Yeah, it would be,
It's
that's
de-escalate.
de-escalate.
Huh.
If it gets to that point, if it gets to that serious.
Hopefully it wouldn't.
The school board supports the rights and members of the public to attend its open meetings and wishes to hear from its constituents during public comment periods. Members must, however, be both safe and orderly. Accordingly, willful or repeated violations of health or safety rules or rules of order and decorum may result in a person's expulsion from the meeting location.
That's good. What if we put that up at the top along with that first sentence? What do you think? I wasn't saying we have to. I was just saying, what do you think? I like to talk about
Move
it.
that up?
'cause-
Okay.
But I want to end on a nice thing too.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I like
Oh,
to
yeah.
sandwich it.
Oh, so
But I like that better.
Mhm.
I really do too. I think that provides a good intro and does set the tone of the document a little,
I think it's better.
yeah.
Okay.
I like the first sentence still being there and just add that rest of that bottom paragraph on after the first sentence, do you think?
I just like the last bullet by it,
Oh, just take the whole, oh, yeah.
because we're saying we support it. This is,
Yeah.
That first bullet could even be a header as opposed to a bullet point. It could
Oh.
be, it could be pulled up,
Oh,
it could be
good,
just the
yeah.
title.
Good,
and then make the bullets underneath, make that one not a bullet.
all right.
Okay. Mhm.
That doesn't,
She's moving it up to the top.
And then we're ending with the right to, oh, then you can take my
we don't
question
have to
out.
have that on there. I just wanted you to know that that's one thing the MSBA attorney stressed to me, the very first thing both of them said at different times. You realize the public. The attorney said to me that, oh, sorry. That's the first thing they said when we were discussing this, that the public has the right to free speech in accordance with Amendment 1, but they must abide by the rules of order and decorum in a school board business meeting. I mean, you can leave it because it does state, we know they have a freedom of speech.
So I'm
I don't know how
gonna,
to put that in
I'm
a
gonna-
positive spin.
right, I want to, one thing that I think that we can do, and this is just word usage, anytime you use the word but, you erase everything that was said before it.
Okay,
So I really,
just put a period.
you could,
And?
you could do an and, we could restructure that part there, but that I do think using the word but anytime you're saying these things, you're discounting everything that's before, and I
Okay, I
don't-
agree.
think that takes away.
I agree. Do we want it in there? I just wanted the public to know, we know they have a freedom of speech, but this is a school board business meeting and we want rules of order and decorum to be professional. So it's up to you.
I like the sentence, but wow.
Oh, I like
I
that.
think
Do you like that?
However, it does kind of
No.
the same thing.
Oh,
It could be
yes.
and, the public has the right to free speech
Or
in
which
accordance with
includes,
Could you,
which
Amendment
includes
1.
abiding by.
And,
okay.
and,
But it's so much better.
What
But I know what you're trying to do. I know
Could
what
you-
you're trying to do.
if
Could you make it, oh gosh, why is my
what
mic
if
so?
you say
loud?
which
I think
includes
that
or which
I think
involves?
and works.
yeah,
And you're making it inclusive.
Okay.
And these are the things that we want you to do.
Yeah, because
Okay, okay.
we're not trying to exclude it, because we don't want anyone to read into it and think that we're trying to limit anything.
I like
you know?
it. Good-
So
good
let's
point.
take the first bullet point, like Guy said, and add it on to the first sentence so that that bullet point's not a bullet point, right?
I want that first sentence to be like a header or.
A header, yeah, I liked it, but welcome to
So
that.
that first bullet point should be a header, right? The school board supports the right of.
No,
members.
no. We welcome all patrons to the
Oh.
Ozark School Board education meetings.
And
That's,
then under
because
an
that's
opening
not
statement.
that's not a task. We're not tasking them. That's not a rule. You don't gotta be here. You know, or you, I mean, that's anyways.
And then here's the things we'd like for you to do
Oh, I
since you're
thought-
here.
I misunderstood. I thought you meant that first bullet point would be part of the header also.
Oh, no, I wanted I wanted that
Is
to
that
be the
one little
first bullet
sentence?
point, but just that's,
Oh.
really, that could even be, welcome to Ozark School Board. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to, you know, I mean, it could be
Yeah.
shortened and
Yeah,
dressed up in a way.
welcome to the school board
Maybe
meeting.
bold.
Yeah, the point of it is just to say, we're happy you're here, but we have some rules we want everybody to abide by. There's
Yeah.
boundaries.
Now, and this is something we're wanting to read before every board meeting, or?
Free speech, how do you want
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Just a
Let's
statement
finish
at
that.
the
Oh, I
end
thought
or a
that was
bullet point?
finished.
I like it at the end.
Just a
Because we're
statement.
saying, you're here, these are your rights, we must abide by these so we can all move forward. I mean, I like it. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yes, and so Guy was asked, so do we want to, do we want to read this before every meeting, or how do we want to distribute this document?
Yeah, I was just, that's where when I look at it, I was like, this is a whole lot of stuff to read before a meeting.
Mhm.
And, you
You
know,
can just sit back.
if there's you know,
I'll just
there's
sit
a
back
lot of
here.
policies and things we don't read before every meeting that are kind of part of it. And I don't think to me, I think that may be going over, you know, over the top, but I think having this displayed and, you know, welcoming people, do know that we do have some guidelines we need you to follow, you know, decorum while you're here at the meeting. If you have any questions, we do have them posted on the door when you walk
Okay.
in and by the table. Thank you for being here. Now let's say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I think that, I don't think we have to necessarily hand them out to everyone. They could have them available, like Guy said. But I do believe those people that sign up to address the board need to have a copy in hand. That is their warning. That is their warning.
But the outbursts are coming after the public.
But it's usually from somebody that spoke at the
Well, that is true.
request time.
Yeah, but that's where you come in.
Yeah, and you're gonna
Are you
police
gonna
it.
Can we
Are you
have
gonna
a
give them
secret, if I don't notice it or hear it, is there a way?
I'm gonna hit you.
Yes.
We just say, board members just say, point of order, Madam President, would you direct the member of the audience to remain silent?
There you go. You can say point of order, yes.
Yeah, I've never heard it either, but I believe you guys that it happens, so I don't hear a lot of good things, I guess, so, but you can just say, Amber, you can say point of order. We'll have President direct them to it.
I
shouldn't
heard
say
a
I've never
couple-
heard it,
I
'cause
heard
did hear
some-
it one time. There
some
was a
loud
question
ones,
about
but
who
not
was
all
that guy
of-
speaking. I remember that
I
one.
didn't find that to
I-
be rude.
Yeah,
That
That wasn't what was rude.
Yeah.
It was many other things.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
It's like,
some
maybe because
audience
I'm not
members
sitting
were
on
telling
that
me
side of
things
the
that
room.
I didn't exactly hear, so I don't know if we want to address that in a way.
Yeah,
What'd you
do.
say?
Told by some of our patrons that were here last.
I had,
We even highlighted in red. Well, I mean, at least they would stand out to know that what this is, they've got it in red, or black, right out and specifically what they're wanting to say, because we're rambling with so many different words. But whatever we're specifically wanting, highlighted your big subjects, so it fits their attention.
so at the meeting last month, I had audience members tell me that some people there were spelling out the word DIE and things like that, that we didn't necessarily hear. So what
I
shall we
did.
do in that case? But you
Were they
did
spelling
hear, so.
DIE or DEI? DEI, because there was a discussion about DEI during the
It was
research
DIE.
agreement or whatever.
It was DIE is what I heard. And then yeah.
And then when
Oh.
Patty made a motion, someone said shame on you, and then some other, I did hear that, but there were some
Yeah,
And
others
then
as
I
well.
said, I was pointing something out I had read to Christina, and somebody said, either she can't read or she didn't read. I found that to be very rude.
And then
Yeah.
one of them used curse words also to another patron.
Yes, I heard some,
Yes,
I heard that too.
I heard that too.
Okay, so we've got this oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna, and part of it, I think in what they were spelling out, if I understood right, may not have been
May not have been.
what it was not. It may not have been for DI, and it may have been DEI or whatever, but there were other people that were in the audience that were concerned by it, that
Oh.
didn't know what that other meant. And so
Oh.
that's where we deal with perceptions as well, and we talk about that. So that's where part of it is there was, I think that's what caused more of the issue than, maybe what was said wasn't the worst.
But either way, it was a disruption.
Yes, it was a disruption, exactly.
And it makes it hard to hear. I don't like it when people behind
I
me are
don't.
talking. I'm like, I just barely can hear anyway, so shh, no
Well,
noise around.
And don't you think as a mom or even a teacher, you're trying to listen to everything? Like
Yeah.
I feel like, oh, what was that? Am I miss? And then I am distracted.
Do we need a vote on this, or should we?
Sure. We go back to the paragraph that talks about when we leave. Pages, what was that paragraph?
Like next to the bottom, I think. Next to last, or third from last.
Interrupts or shouts, that
Third,
last one.
third up.
Okay, so the president should stop the meeting, state
Oh.
to the patron that they are out of order. If the patron continues, the president can ask the person to leave the meeting. If the patron does not leave and continues, the president will call for a recess. So you're asking the patron to leave. They didn't. I think you then need to ask the SRO.
Yes, I agree.
That's what it
Because
says.
if that's what you're asking them to do, to leave and they're refusing, then the SRO just needs to have the instruction on what to do next.
Do you think we should de-escalate though and the board step out during that time if it gets to that point?
Yes, I'm just saying the SRO or whoever's there needs instruction because they're not, they need direction.
Right,
They're not
'cause-
gonna automatically come and do that unless the board president or the superintendent says, please escort this person out.
Do we want, and this is a question, do we want when you're, thinking through the way these situations are, gonna go, I hope we never end up here, right? But should that be when we're like, we need you, the first request to ask them to leave should be, would the SRO please escort them out at that point? And calling them in at that point when we're asking someone to leave, that may be the time for the SRO to activate, if that makes
If
sense.
those are the code words, then you don't say, that I know, I spoke to them yesterday, and they said they need direction on what to do. Just because we asked them to leave and they're refusing, that's not giving them direction on what to do.
But
By
yeah.
their policy, they have to be asked by the president or the superintendent.
You probably need to put that in.
Yeah, it says the president should call for a recess and instruct the SRO to remove the individual.
Okay, just kind of reverse it. And then, I mean, look at. Right, their politics are free to deal with it.
Yeah, you can do it.
I apologize, I didn't see instruct the SRO.
Oh, no, she just added
Oh,
it
okay,
in.
good.
Just now. She just added it in. She fixed it. She's fast.
Quick.
I know you guys say, I know that there have been times when there's been disruption and distraction in the meeting, so I'm not discounting that, but I just want to say one more time, I wish it didn't sound so, here are the rules, we expect the worst from you. I wish it was more, we believe it's going to be the best with our community involvement and our school working together and everyone's working together for good, I wish it was more positive, but I guess so. I'm sorry that happened. I can't believe that's really loses credibility for sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amended rules of order and decorum for the Ozark School Board.
Second.
Aye.
Are you talking about, are they doing this document? Board member etiquette?
So they're setting up dinner right now. Would you like to take a small break while we get the administrators back in here and you grab, and you eat while we?
Are we not doing the board member etiquette document? It's fine with me.
No,
but
they went,
Oh, good, because
that
there were a
way
lot of
instead of-
stuff I didn't agree with in it. Okay.
so take a 5-10 minute break, grab food if you want, while they're bringing them in. Oh, let's see if there's.
Testing. That's good. Yeah. Thank you. That way I don't have to sit so close to the microphone.
What'd you say?
It is 4:39. It is 4:39. My hair must be purple or blue.
So it is here. If you want to grab something to eat while the executive directors are coming down, please do so. Or if at any point you want to get up and go grab some food while we're talking, you can do that too. You give us just a couple minutes to get ready. I'll go from here. Rocco's. Rocco's.
Oh, Rocco.
I didn't mean
We're ready whenever you are. Yeah. Yeah.
Five, isn't that what the policy says? Five?
I've got 5 minutes, so I'll rush it right now. Well, I want to remind you that we are given the scorecard update. The scorecard are rolled up dashboards, and the three of us, our divisions have dashboards. And so you won't see completely behind the curtain at the 15 feet level. You're going to see the 30,000 foot level on the rolled up data. We will tell you stories that make the data real and that help you understand what the data say. But you won't see all the way into the weeds. Right now, the scorecard we're going to be working from isn't a public-facing scorecard. It's not on our web, but it will be once we are complete and we're ready to move forward. Just so you remember, if you look over here at the website, if you want to find our CSIP, or if the public wants to find our CSIP, they just go About Us, Comprehensive School Improvement Plan. When they get to the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan and see we have an October meeting, then this is the 22 scorecard. And underneath the 22 scorecard are a lot of different plans that are the governance of the district. So when I click on CSIP, this is what you approved last year it's our governing document to guide our district. We will bring you a new CSIP in November based on the feedback and conversations we have today, and then we will create new goals, which is what you'll approve next month. For this month, we're going to give you we'll give you all of this data we talked about last year, and last year's CSIP will update you on those numbers. That's what we're going to do for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever that is. So when you're looking at this CSIP plan, just to remind us what our mission and vision is, and our mission and vision is about each student's future readiness and about being innovative and trying to do things that are built on our customers, the processes we use, how we're going to serve employees, and do all that and stay fiscally responsible. We have 4 strategic goals that we use to guide our CSIP process. These are goals you chose multiple years back, and all of the things underneath the CSIP, all of the objectives, everything that drives all of these processes and what we're doing fit inside those strategic goals. So when we start talking about data, so if the goal number 1 is about improving an environment of high quality instruction to produce applied learning, that's goal number 1. Here are strategies, and we talked through those last fall, but every one of these squares, those are all our objectives, measurable objectives that we're going to give you feedback on tonight. So we said that we would, to be able to reach this goal about evidence-based practices and literacy, then we said we would, on our priority standards, we would master those across the grade levels, 80% range. And here is how we're going to grade ourselves, 1 through 5. Our MAP scores with MAP Performance Index, and here's 1 through 5. Our Evaluate scores, here's 1 through. So we have, if you page after page, there are all the data points that we said we would use to tell you, are we on track? Have we stubbed our toe? Are there places we can push further? That's the data we're using. So we're not going to go through the CSIP page for page for page. We're instead going to the scorecard, which is all that data rolled into this at one spot for you to be able to look, and for the public to be able to see a snapshot of 2022, 2023. So having said all of that, The learning division is the top of the scorecard here. And you'll notice we have a scale 1 through 5. The 4 is our target, and then it shows gradations, and you can find all the ranges on the CSIP. So when we talk about the learning division, we have it divided up into college and career readiness, which is on our APR. Leading indicators of success are ways we're looking at. If we have this column correct, then it's going to impact all of these academic scores. Those are leading indicators. If we're doing these things, that's going to impact learning. Here's professional learning and leadership. So how we're working with our staff in training them and how we're giving them leadership opportunities. And then wellness. And then on our APR, we also have early learning. And then the bulk of all of our academic scores. So I'm just going to work our way through this systematically, and I'll time myself and try to be done in a good time. How did I get it big? I'm not sure. Are you looking at 22? I'm not sure where you got your link. Yes, it's not on the web. This is not the one that's live on the website. That's the difference. Yes, no, thank you. I'm glad we'll clarify that.
There's no way we can be looking at it on here.
Well, how about, hey, Erica, you don't have a computer though. If you can access this, you don't have your computer. If you can send them the link, it's right here at the bottom, scorecard 2023.
Yeah, because I'm trying
Yep.
to follow it
Yeah,
here,
that's
but I'm like,
perfect.
that doesn't match what's up there.
They will have to log into Power BI. Stink.
Oh,
That won't work. Never mind. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Well, we'll see if I can.
Right here and actually read the detail.
Okay, how about that? Is that a little bit better? We'll work off of that. I won't need my reading glasses now. Okay, so let's just look at the key indicators for academics. So we gave you earlier this year our MAP scores, and we gave you the raw data. What the MAP does, the MAP Performance Index, and let me see if I can pull it off of here just so I can show you. Where did I put that? Let me get right there, I think. I want to show you, I want to remind you how to understand the MAP Performance Index. And this is not this year's. So if you look at the MAP Performance Index, for every score that we receive a proficient or so advanced, the student gets a 5. For proficient, they get from 4 to 4.9. For basic, they get 3 to 3.9. For below basic, they get from 1 to 2.9. So if the Carson kid is basic, but they're almost proficient, then they're going to score 3.8, 3.9. We can't guess that. That's the magic that is given back to us. That's all state data, and so we can't guess that. But this year is really our first year to have a continuous MPI, and that's what this is. It goes from 1 to 5. In the past, what we've used is basic, below basic, basic, proficient, advanced. So this shifted all the MPI scores so they are a little higher because it actually reflects where the student is on the continuum. So now it's a continuum. So when we talk about MPI, then what we're doing is, I could tell you that we had 65% of our students were proficient and advanced. That's a percentage. We don't use percentage because MPI actually narrows it down to showing you where we are on the spectrum. to get APR points, you had to be at a certain MPI. So what we did, we took how DESE judges us with the MPI, and we used those to develop ranges. So when that's not the real data, of course. So when you look at those ranges, then our goal is to grow by 2% from last year, and I think it was 2% growth. I don't remember the other piece, but we were trying to grow by 2% on our MPI. And so when you look at ours, we go back to this 420.30. So look at this one's 389.31. Do you see the difference in the numbers? It is them going to continuous MPI skewed all the numbers ahead. So if you look at MPI, you can't compare the two. Right. So you can't. So this green that we have shows that we grew, but we definitely didn't grow by 2%. Our MPI was way out of bounds. So even though the green this shows growth, we didn't go backwards in those numbers, but it's not a 2% growth. 2% off the MPIs would be a huge amount with the new MPI change. But so what you all know with ELA, math, and science, we grew with all of our students. If you look here, ELA, math, and science, we grew with these sets of our student groups, which means the students who are at risk in some type of category, potentially at risk. We grew, but we did not grow to the extent that we grew with all students. And so we're not at a green. We always have work to do. And so it just shows you that we're almost to a green. We did have growth, but our student groups are not where we want them. At-risk students are at risk. That is their definition. And so we put in more resources, and we put in a lot of love, and we try to get those students up to growth where they can be as successful as all of our students. So when you look at this little thing that's covered up as social studies actually didn't go down. It was actually neutral. When you look at the raw data, it showed that, I told you earlier this year, when you look at the raw data, it showed a drop. When you look at DESE's data, we're almost number for number neutral. So, but you all know, and we've already told you, this is a number that we have to work on. And earlier this week, we had a lady who, from the RPDC out of Kansas City, and she was working with our social studies teachers, grades 8 through 11, all day on Monday. And she'll see them multiple times this year, because we realize this is a growth place that we've got to put in some energy and time. And so those teachers are working very hard, and we're working on it continually. So this, again, that's a growth area. If you look at this, so that's MAP, and that's grades 3 through 12. All those numbers are rolled together, and that's where we are we did experience some growth. We have more work to do. Lots to be proud of with the MAP. With our standards, these are priority standards. So what we do instead of grades, we don't measure grades anymore. We're measuring standards. So if I'm a third grade math teacher, then I may have 17 standards for the year, the priority ones. And I'm looking at every student, each student with each standard. And I'm trying to make sure that all of our students have mastered those standards before we just shift them and shift them and shift them. If a student's not getting the standard, then that's where we put in our RTI processes. That's where we really, and you've seen in classrooms that you've toured, you've seen us do that small flexible grouping. We really pour energy into those kids to help them catch up. So when we're looking at standards, this is how much percentage of students in ELA from grades K to 12. So this is a big number. It's rolled up multiple times. Across the district, 75.3% of the standards that are available in English were mastered. To do that, that's about, I don't know how many thousands, that's probably 30,000 standards rolled up, because that's all of your students, and they all have 15 or 18 ELA standards times your number of students. So you can see how that number gets really large. We've condensed it down to one number so we can show you. Our goal is to be over 80%, and we're at 75-33. So we're close to 80. We would definitely want to see it grow. When we created these numbers, this is the first year I can actually give you a number. We're not calculating any grades this year. It's just standards. We've never been able to do that, and I'm grateful we could this year. Math, we're at 70.46. In science, we're at 83, and you can see social studies, we're at 71. ELA, these are our student groups. So our at-risk students, 70%, 59%. So this is data that we look at. And if our math scores are really, really strong when we're looking at MAP and EOC. But if we notice our priority standards are a little low in that area, especially for our student groups, that gives our administrators and our teachers information to help our students who are struggling. And so this is good data, and it's just for you to know, we know that's the point of work. So our science, look at our at-risk students with science. They're not far from our all students. That's phenomenal. That's a terrific, that shows you the strength of our science curriculum, the strength of our science teachers. Then you have social studies, and this is all of our non-core subjects, and this is our non-core subject student groups. So look how close that is. That's really, really close, and we're grateful. And then evaluate, which is what we will be used to use for our new APR. So the two columns we'll use this column and this column next year on our APR when we give it to DESE. Those are the two columns we're going to use with our MAP waiver. Look how our evaluate is lower in ELA and math. What we are actually giving our data to Marzano for, the Marzano research, they are looking at this data and they're correlating it to the MAP. We've said we want our students to be at a certain percentage, but actually the correlation to MAP is lower than what our percentage we've set. So they're telling us, here's how these two equate. And when they give us, that's going to help us. And in November, we can tell you, here are better percentages. The percentages I plucked out last year to put on the CSIP, we didn't reach those percentages. But once they do that correlation with MAP, then I'll be able to we'll be able to give you a better percentage of what we're wanting for evaluate, what looks like proficiency. Yes.
Would you rather we held our questions till the end, or should
No,
we ask
shoot
as we
away.
go? So you keep talking about this percentage of the standards. Do you mean state standards or use priority standards? Which standards are those?
So priority standards are state standards, and they are so one researcher said if we had time to teach every standard that we have, it would take us from grade K to 23. We don't have time to teach all of those standards.
Right.
So what we've done, every team in the district has prioritized, here are the standards that are most important for life,
Okay.
the ones that are most important for what's next in school,
Good.
and the ones that are most important for this current grade. So
Where-
those three things together
Good.
make, these are the ones that every kid really needs to master.
Good. Where can we find what those are?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked, because
I hope you really are. I don't mean to.
oh,
interrupt
no,
your presentation.
I'm not being facetious. I'm always happy to share the work we're doing.
Good.
You can find all of those priority standards, if I can find it on the new, okay, departments, go to learning, and then on learning, there's an agenda. Okay, on learning, if you will go to, I've not been on this, right here, proficiency scales and priority standards.
Oh,
If you
good.
click
Thank
on
you.
that,
Thank you.
we want to make it as visible to parents as we absolutely can. And so every priority standard, and they're tied to proficiency scales. This may not be 100% updated, but we try to keep this as updated as possible. So if I'm going to, I'll just pick a grade. Let's do third grade math. Here are the
Excellent.
priority
Thank you.
standards that every third grader needs. And let's see if I can find the proficiency scale for these. Maybe I can't. Oh, it's on a different column. Hang on, let me go back. Perfect. Oh, and then here's third grade math. When I'm talking about proficiency scales, let's click on this one. So for a kid to be proficient on this standard, they need to be in this column. If they are, and so this would get them, if you're thinking MPI, this gets them a 4, this gets them a 5. So but because you know how MPI rolls up and what we're talking about. Right. So if they're developing those skills, they fall into this column. If they're really at that beginning stages, they're here. And so then we make sure our assessments can be tied directly to proficiency skills. I'm glad you asked.
Good.
I hope you've given me 3 hours because
I
I've got
wonder
lots
about
to say
that.
about this.
I wonder about that. I'd like to see what those.
Yeah,
standards
no,
are.
it's all
That's
there.
good.
It's
Thank you.
we want parents to be able to click away, and we want them to understand. There's nothing we teach that we're hiding. It's all out
No,
there.
No, I know. And you
and-
said our teams are the ones who go through and pick out the proficient
Yep.
ones that fit with our curriculum in our
Yep.
school.
Yep, it's 100% local.
Good.
So it's really important for us to keep that local. Thank you for asking. And so when we're talking about proficiency scales, priority standards, that other sheet gives you all of that information. And so that's what this column is. Here's our evaluate. You'll notice with evaluate, our at-risk learners are still, I mean, they're the strugglers. So we keep plotting forward. What you'll notice on the CSIP when we bring it in November, we'll have strategies on how we are working with all of those numbers to make those stronger. Any questions about the academic scores themselves? All right. College career and readiness is a huge part of our waiver. It was a part of the last APR as well. But with the waiver, it makes, if we're going to tell our story on how successful we are with kids, that story has to do with success readiness for students. So are they ready for the real world? And so when you look at these college careers and readiness, the first one is graduation rate in a 4-year cohort. We're at 97.1. If you stretch that cohort out to, there's 2 ways to do cohort, 4-year and 5, 6, 7. If you look at our 5, 6, 7, then that again gets larger. And so what that simply would mean, if we have 400 freshmen, that same cohort, do they graduate in 12th grade? Or for some of our special needs students, they may graduate 3 or 4 years later because they can go until they age out. It may also mean a student could drop out and we get them back and we get them to recover those scores, and they end up being a grad in 5 years instead of 4. So that's why we look at different cohorts. Our 4-year cohort is what we set our goal off of, and it's 97.1. It gets higher as you roll up. Greater than 85% of the students qualifying for diploma, and we had an 82. So that's why it's yellow. I want it to be an 85. I'd like for it to be 100. So we'll keep pushing that, and that's a huge part of our new waiver because we want that to be a large. Greater than 65% of our grads are college and career ready. The state, I forget what the state, do you remember what that number is? Is it 65 for the state? So we have 78.5, which means we have students who have dual credit, AP, IB, Project Lead the Way, the capstone class. So it's all of those things. That's what that number represents. Our kids going to OTC. Greater than 71% of the grads above the state average on ASVAB ACT, and the work keys. So the state says 71.5. We had 71.8. Man, we scraped and we've really been targeting this number. So I'm so grateful that's a green. Thank you, Gerald and his whole team, because that's a lot of work. And so we're so appreciative of that. And then all 8th through 12th graders have to have an individual career and academic plan. And that is, we were at 100%. So that's college and career ready. When we're looking at leading indicators of success, so what are those things that we know if we do, it's going to help all of these boxes? A state attendance is 90. If you remember what that means, it means 90% of the students have to be here at least 90% of the time. This is not ADA. 90-90, we won't, when we get our APR back, we won't have full points because that's not 90. Our people in every building work their tails off to get people here. Since COVID, we've sent dual messages. If you feel bad, stay home. And yet we give credit for people coming to school. And so it is what it is. Our people are working very hard. And with PowerSchool right now, it's next to impossible to get the data we need on attendance. Thankfully, this past week, we started getting some of our unified insights. That's going to be finished in December, but attendance rolled through this week. I've sent my first attendance number that I could actually sink my teeth into, we got this week. So I'm grateful for that. And they didn't look too bad. So I'm grateful for that as well. But our people work so hard to get students here. If you want to know attendance percentage, ADA, last year we were at, drum roll please, we were at 91.8. So we were over 90% in ADA. But 90 over 90, we were not. We were at 86.7. At least 50% of secondary students involved in some kind of or extracurricular activity. Research says that if a student is involved in at least one, and it even is better when they're involved in two things, that's co-curricular or extracurricular, then the achievement level goes up. So if we're tracking this number, the higher we can get this number actually impacts learning. And so we want to track that and get as many kids as we can involved. The higher engagement, the higher student achievement. So our hope was 50%. We had a 59. As we set goals for next year, we'll determine what to do with that number. Priority standards are reported at the course level, and every student, every teacher is now recording priority standards, and that hasn't always been the case. And so we've worked to that. Proficiency scales, which I showed you a while ago, are aligned to our priority standards. We are above 95%, but there's still a one-off class here or there that aren't complete, but we are getting there. And so we're excited about that. That's much better than in years past. Units of study are aligned with our priority standards. We have an 85 because people are at different spots. Teachers are working hard to really make sure their units of study are giving us the evidence we need for priority standards. We're not completely there, and we don't have a super way of measuring it this past year. So this year, as we will continue to, our goal is 90%, because there's always going to be a few peripherals, but we're continuing to work to make sure all of our units of study are aligned to our local curriculum and our local priority standards. Our goal was to create outside partnerships with organizations, business, nonprofit for each academy. We have created this year additional partnerships with each one of our academies. We want to do more, and we have plans. Again, secondary teams working on that, but we did reach our goal of adding them for every academy. We will look for a better way to measure it just so all the academies can have good goals as they're trying to move forward with that. The staff reports, community partnerships are meaningful to students. So what we asked last year, our staff, we said, we have these partnerships. How are these partnerships meaningful for your students? So are you using them in a way that's good for the partner and good for kids? It's our beginning data pieces on really using our partnerships for the work we're doing in the OIC and real world learning. So out of 4, we're at a 3.75. We are still defining what that means, and staff is still defining what that means. So that's a 3.75. They feel good about where they are, but we know we've got further to grow. So I'm happy with 3.75, but we're growing that with our own understanding. NE walkthrough data, our principals walk through, every teacher gets multiple walkthroughs throughout the year. This just tells us that when principals go into the classroom out of 7, so 1 through 7, you don't hardly give any 7s. The average for are we seeing kids cognitively engaged in what they're supposed to be is a 5.9. And are they critically thinking? So they're not just engaged in something, are they actually critically thinking about something? Our goal again is the 5.0 to 5.4, we're to 5.6. So those are both good data, and we watch those every year. I've just never had them on our dashboard or scorecard before. So I wanted you to be able to see those as well, since it's a part of the CSIP. In early learning, MSIP tracks this data. And so with kindergarten readiness, our hope is that at least 50% of our kindergartners come to us ready to learn kindergarten skills. We give them a dial 4 during kindergarten screening and all of that. You've seen that process. What we realize is 48.7 of them measure kindergarten ready. Well, that's a number to start with. That's what the state looks at, is for kindergarten readiness. Dr. Sappington and his team, they said, well, what if we also measure first grade readiness? So they come in at whatever you get. They roll off the street, or they've been in preschool for 3 years, and there's such a variety. His team does such a marvelous job taking kids where they are and growing them. So we measure how many of our kindergartners are ready for first grade, and that's 88%. So we take those students where they are, and then at the end of the year, what have we done? You know, for the 12% that is not in this number, there's lots of stories there. Students are lots of different places. Our goal for that is at least 80%. We'd want 100. I can't tell you all the stories, but I'll know who does. His teachers. Sorry. His teachers know every name, and they can tell you how that student needs to grow. And he and his group do a marvelous job. They know where each kid is and where each kid needs to grow. 88%, I'd love to be 100. But that is tons more than when they came to us. So we take them where they are, and we do an excellent job with what they're learning. So how do teachers learn what to do? Sometimes it's overwhelming with the amount of new things that come our direction. So we give a lot of professional learning. We measure if that's effective or not, and we've done that for years. One of the ways we ask teachers, was this learning relevant? Out of 5, we have a 4.6, so we're grateful that they believe the learning's relevant. Can you implement this in your work? We have a 4.2 out of 5. Does it align with the CSIP and your needs assessments and the ESEL walkthrough and those things you're doing? Yes, 98% of what we are learning aligns. And you know, there's some people who can go to anything and nothing ever aligns. You know, they don't see anything as this really pertains to me. If I'm a music teacher and I go to something about reading, sometimes I don't think, oh, how's that apply to me, or to a math, or so that will never be 100, because we have teachers. The construction trades guy is in something about something to do with an academic classroom, and so he's like, that doesn't really align to me, and so you know how that goes. We're happy with the 98%. Staff who attended over the outside of contract time, staff who attended at least one learning session. Our goal is 85. 89% of the staff attended outside of their contract time. So that's a great percentage. We wanted teacher externships where we pay a teacher to go learn in business, in community, in nonprofit, to go learn, bring back the learning, and they can apply it in their classroom, and that's how you get better real world learning. We wanted to increase that by 3, and we have a grant, a Grow Your Own Teachers grant, and what's the other grant? A retention grant. The retention grant we use to help pay this for externships. We only had 2 last year. We were hoping for 3, so you'll see it's yellow. We hope next year we'll have more, because it's a great way for them to learn, and they get paid to be out in the community and learn how real world math looks in this setting, or how you can just imagine. Budget resources are either equal or greater to the prior year for professional learning. So we reimburse teachers if they want extra training, they want to go back to school, we reimburse that. The 4 means we did not go down, we didn't increase, we didn't get a 5, but it was the same as flat funding. And I think that's actually really good for where we are right now, just in the economy. So that's good. 80% of the staff report that PLC protocols are in place, and they hold to our PLC needs assessment. So that was 95%, which is great. 80% of the staff participate in some type of departmental or site teams. And so that's 83% of the staff said yes, they do that. And then each site has some type of leadership team that gives teacher voice, is what this one's measuring. And every school has that. And our departments have that. And then each site or department has a plan for celebrating staff success, and they can all give you their plan as well for how they want to celebrate staff success and the short wins. And so that is our data around professional learning. Any questions around that? All right. Wellness. Our goal was 53%, and we had green. I think that should be this color, so I apologize. Our hope was 53%, but we only had 51% participate in the HRA. The reason we want people to participate in that is because it helps us understand what are the kinds of professional learning opportunities we need to give for wellness. And so when you look at the number of staff who are participants in wellness, that number is wrong too. So these two, it's pink because it's not 494. I think that was 194. Here's why that number went way down. The reason we were at 400, 2 years ago we were at 494. This year we're right over 100. So people, we used to offer, when we did professional development days before school year started, lots of people went to wellness. Now they're only offered, some are offered during the school day, but they're only offered like in afternoons after school. So we have less people that are actually attending wellness professional learning. So we're going to redo, the reason there's an asterisk on these two is because now that we're not doing our PLC days, it's changing the way we need to calculate how we're offering wellness. Tomorrow morning, we have a wellness committee meeting before school, and that's one of the things that the wellness committee is going to tackle. That's why those are pink. It's not that people don't care about wellness, it's just we changed the way we're offering those But if you'll look, our goal was we have an EAP that's offered through the website for mental health and mental wellness, and we have not had many people take advantage of that. So we made a goal this past year that we wanted to advertise it throughout the year, and we were hoping that at least 10 people would take advantage of the EAP that's offered through our insurance plan. It is over 10. I didn't put the actual data on there, but we met our goal by quite a bit, and that's great because staff are using those benefits, and that's what we want. That's why they're there. Then the last one is that we have regular wellness communication, and we do this multiple ways through Twitter, through our staff e-news, and through email. So there's multiple ways we communicate about staff wellness, and we counted through those. Our goal was 19. When I got to 19, I quit counting because it meant we hit our goal. And so I think that's it. That is the Learning Division update. Yes, ma'am.
What is HRA? Is it health risk
HRA,
assessment?
health risk assessment.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
On the co-curricular activities section, do you take into account activities outside of school, other like Springfield Little Theater or
We
things like
don't.
that, or
We
church?
don't.
Or
We don't, and that would be a way to show that kids are active in something. I like that idea. I'm not sure how we garner it, but potentially. No, I love that idea. Thank you. Other thoughts or questions?
On these ones that are dark green that you've met the goal or above the goal, that's your benchmark, but do you raise your goal once you've stayed on there?
Well, if it's at 100, I won't.
Well, no.
But some of these others, yes, we'll adjust our goals based on what they are.
You know, I like
'Cause-
seeing the dark green. But
Absolutely.
If you're beating it a couple of years in a row, well, maybe
Sure,
we need to raise
sure,
that
sure, sure.
goal a little.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
this has been a great presentation, wonderful as always. I just had one more question on the relating to priority standards. You said there will always be some on the periphery. Can you give an
Yeah,
example?
I can. So that's a perfect example. So any of our CTE courses.
Okay.
So they are like one off. They're not in a team of a bunch of alike teachers, and so it's reliant on that teacher to maybe do. Well, look at Lexi McNew. Let's take her for example. She's got like 5 different preps. So when she's updating her curriculum, her assessments, things like that, she's got 5 courses to do. Where a 4th grade class, they're going to do it as a team across the district. So there's lots of hands in that work with an instructional coach, where Lexi is doing it by herself with an instructional coach, maybe if she can find time for one of them that's not at the high school to come up and help her. And so there's always a teacher like that that's kind of on the periphery that it's not that they're not working on it, it's just they're not complete because they have a lot of work to do. Why is wellness on here? Because we are required by law to have wellness goals, and law meaning DESE law. DESE requires us to have wellness teams, yes. And so the reason wellness is on here is because if we're going to do it, then we better measure what we're doing. And it's also on the MSIP 6. Wellness is required to be a part of our CSIP plan as well. It's because in the past, I've just had one little box and it said wellness met their goals or not. So it was one number. That's why it changed. Any other questions?
Specific questions about the building plans, but I don't think I need to ask them right now. or
Yeah, you
should
can
I?
wait till later.
Yeah,
Or
okay, good.
I don't care, I guess, but
They're just
yes.
questions. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think it's whoever's next.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, can I have, I talk about these people all the time, and we have some new board members, so If I could have the Magnificent Five come forward. I'd like to make sure that you can put a face with a name. Dennis Fott is our Director of Custodial Services. You've been with the district for 23 years. 23 years. We hung a TV together in the high school commons. Was the first time we worked together.
It's still there.
Still working.
We did a good job.
That was almost 20 years ago. So next up, we talk about Cheryl, our Nutrition Services Director, Cheryl Johnson. She's been with the district for 4 years now, doing magnificent things. We're going to talk about some of those. Dean Wake, Transportation Director, been in the district in different roles, 6 years, and does an amazing job for us. Mark Fott, the legend. If you don't know who he is, you haven't been here in the last 27 years. Director of Maintenance. 30. Okay. All right. And Kyle Anderson, you've seen Kyle present to us before, and Kyle does an amazing job with his team of keeping the district safe and on the network side of it. So we're going to, if you guys could sit on the front row, because I'm going to ask a couple of questions as we go through this and have them talk through some things. Listen, I'm telling you, they're here because they're amazing. I have the best division in the district. No, no, I don't want to say that because I love all of our teachers. They're great too. But as far as the collaboration that they have, the ability they have, we meet weekly. We bounce everything from HR items over to working together. And we all goes back to how do we meet our goals? And so our goals on our scorecard are listed below. And I do want to point out, red can be bad, but red is also good because it gives us area to focus. So I'm not trying to pink. So I'm not trying to oversell it. But there are reasons when you look at these that we know that we need to improve on, and we can justify the data, and it makes us think outside the box and change the way we do things so it's not the way we've always done it. So in nutrition, when we had free lunches for everybody and breakfast, we hit over the 50% mark, and that was great. When we came back last year and said, free lunch is gone, we sat and had great conversation about setting these goals. Do we change that? And we decided we were going to keep it. And we hit 51.1%. And that is an amazing number, considering once you take that free away, there are less expensive options to eating. I mean, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is cheaper than a school lunch if you're paying full price. But yes, ma'am. You bet. And this right here, this number is, we just had an assistant superintendent's meeting for the COC. That's not what people have seen across Southwest Missouri. That number is reflective upon the fact that Cheryl and her ladies, and now 3 gentlemen, 4 maybe, lady and gentlemen, have come together and they create a superior product. It is good. You walk into the buildings and unbelievably, the day they're making roasted vegetables, it'll just suck you right into the cafeteria. You want to be there. Kids want to be there for that. She added the program for fresh fruit. It's the D. Yep. And again, yesterday at the assistant superintendent's meeting, people are going, hey, have you heard about this DOD program? We're starting it this year. And I'm like, well, Cheryl brought it with her, and we've been getting fresh fruit for a long time. And it's amazing. And I saw this when I was a youth pastor, and you put fresh fruit in front of kids that don't normally get it, that get donuts and candy and non-nutritional things just out of a socioeconomic status or out of availability. If you put fresh fruit in front of those kids, they gravitate to it because that's something that they don't normally get. And the fact that we can provide fresh fruit to kids that don't normally get it and wouldn't get it at home is an amazing thing that Cheryl's brought with her, and that it benefits our kids. And again, leading the way. Greater than 25% breakfast participation in elementary and greater than 15% at secondary. So this is, we made a change last year and we didn't change our goals. And I know the numbers, so I knew this could happen. We just didn't change it. Last year, we were greater than 25% in breakfast because it was 4 elementaries. Secondary was middle school, junior high, and high school. Middle school numbers around 14% participation in breakfast. So that number held up, supported the secondary, so that 8% was higher last year because we had the middle school in there. But we were over 25 at the elementaries, so a 15% pulls that number down. So we need to sit down and really reevaluate the breakfast portion. Cheryl has a great idea, and it's actually, we were talking, I know Webb City does this, and I think Republic does this, a second breakfast option, and we're looking at piloting that, which is high school kids get here. That's the most important thing. We get high school kids here. They start at 7:35, it might be 7:34, it might be 7:36, but getting them here is the most important thing. And so what Second Breakfast does is it has an opportunity for us to offer a grab and go lunch that they can grab after first block, and they can take it to their class with them. They can drink a milk, eat a nutritious grab and go breakfast, and that gives them an opportunity to have and as they're scanning cards, it's not free. Unless they're free or reduced, and then they would pay that price. But if they're free or reduced, they get that discount.
Yeah.
If it's regular price, they scan their card, and it's just like eating a regular breakfast. So we're looking at adding that. That's a pilot we're going to do here. It's a pilot we want to do, and we're working hard towards that, and that'll get that number up. So we're going to readjust our goals for breakfast, but we're going to stick with this for high school. Health inspections, greater than 97.5 or greater than 95, we're at 97.5, which is great. I'm going to come back to all of these at the end because this is something we have focused on for, coming on. With tech, we've been focusing on this for over 10 years. As a department, we've been focusing on this for over 6 years. So I want to talk about those as a whole. Maintain greater than 100% of tech replacement cycle. That's a no, and it's a light green because the limiting factor there is money. We are operating, we're able to function. Those things that are mission critical are replaced in cycles, but there are some things like our core switches and our switches that are approaching the end of their life. And we need to replace, but that's a big ask, and we have to work through budgets, and there's a priority to work through that. Project success 100% budget year to budget year, and that's where you say, okay, so we've stayed within our budget, we've maintained everything, but there's things that we can do better. These two colors are just swapped. We need to get that figured out. And then maintain 70% trackable man hours. This mirrors what we have over with maintenance, and this is a numbers thing. So we have a program where we enter in our work orders. Teachers enter in work orders. Anybody can put a work order in. Our tech guys, our maintenance guys, our custodians then respond to that. And it's easy to track custodian hours because it's 11 minutes per classroom. They're cleaning their classrooms. We know how many classrooms they cleaned. We know how many custodians we need. When it gets to tech and maintenance, their job is all over the district. They could spend 5 minutes working on an HVAC system, or they could work 5 days on an HVAC system. So to make sure that we have the right staffing numbers, my goal is to make sure that we can track 70% of their time to that. That's a mind shift. And not only is it a mind shift, it's more work. And so this time of year, we're normally sitting about 350 work orders. We made a concerted effort this summer. We talked about it a little bit earlier where we brought, in other meetings, where we brought Dennis's people over. The custodians all came to a building, maintenance came to that building, and tech came to that building. And we focused on closing out all the work orders before school started. So because of that effort and continued effort, where we're usually 350, we're about 180 right now. So that's all on these guys and ladies right here and their teams, and really appreciate that. But how do we track those hours? And that's just a business side of it. We're going to really talk about that. Is that something we're going to do going forward, or do we need to change that goal? So we're going to come back to you with a recommendation to keep it or to move it. The other thing, so then if we move over to custodial, we have we have a goal of 9 inspections. Last year we did 8, which was 1 more than the year before, which is good. And those inspections, Dennis is going to come up in just a minute and talk about the software, but he's also going to walk through what that inspection looks like. Target inspection is 95. We've exceeded that with a 96.9. And I just sat in on the custodial coordinators meeting. And that is a very competitive box of donuts they get each month about which building scores the highest on those inspections. And I know that those conversations go back to the building, because we have conversations with custodians in there about, well, why didn't I get a 95 here? Why did I get a 75 on this inspection? And they're walking around and looking at things. So Dennis, could you come up and talk about the new software and what we're doing there?
Yeah, we partner with our custodial supply company, which we use, Hilliard, and that goes out to bid every so often. And the old program that you may be familiar with is called the CAP program. It's a cleaning cost analysis program, where basically it takes industry standards, what goes on in industry, and we kind of convert them to our buildings. We use square footage, we use numbers of fixtures and bathrooms, and those kinds of things. It tells us how many full-time employees we should have to get a certain standard of clean that we've adopted, a level 3 standard of clean. Not a hospital, but it's also not a fairground. So it's kind of in the middle. We're trying to do the best we can with what we've got. But it helps us track those things. And they offer one of the advantages to going with them as a supplier is they have a great quality control part that we can use for our inspection software. That satisfies our continuous improvement model, where we do better every day and we track how we're getting better. But it's great. We can set the criteria, and all the criteria and the way it's graded is based on those industry standards. So we can go in, and a common belief when I started, I'm sorry, tell me if I'm talking too much. Okay, when I started, there's a general belief that all buildings are the same, because it's a school building. It's not. South Elementary is a different building than East Elementary. They have classrooms with sinks. South has classrooms with sinks, East does not. It takes longer in those classrooms to clean it, and we should inspect differently because of that. So we're able to do our own custom inspections, and then we can go back to the staffs, just like Curtis was talking about. We kind of incentivized it, so it's not so much of a gotcha. Can I use it as that? If I have employees that are struggling, sure, I can use that as a, hey, here's how we get better. We always do it from a training point. Hey, here's what we're looking at. If it's a month or two where we're seeing those same things, that draws our attention. That's an area of focus for our custodians. So it's a great program. The newest one is called Envirologics. I think in the state of Missouri, I think there's only a couple schools right now using it. So they're using us. They're going to partner with us to try to get this going this year. It replaces our old one. So as we go through this process, how that information comes to this dashboard will be new. But they're working with us to kind of develop that. So it's a great partnership, and we really, again, we don't use it as a gotcha. If we need to, we can, but we use it to show that continual improvement, something we never did before for our department. So it adds value to our people, makes them feel, if you're doing a rough job, you want to know about it, and it's a way to really do that. It's also a way to really value them and say, hey, you're doing a great job. So.
And on those, thank you, Dennis. On those inspections too, it gives you an opportunity just to get better. So for example, if we go to South Elementary in their gym, and we inspect first thing in the morning, before anybody gets there, we're going through and inspecting. And we go through the gym, and the gym has a mess. Well, that's because the gym was cleaned at 4 o'clock. And as you look and you start talking to people, well, we had a basketball team come in, we had a volleyball team come in. And so now we have an opportunity to say, okay, we want it to be clean for kids. Let's change the way we do that. First thing that comes in, Robert, you're going to clean the gym in the morning before school starts because we know that these other things can happen and might happen. So great conversations all the way along, just about continuous improvement. Maintenance, as we look at maintenance, maintain daily operations and facility improvements within annual budget. That's one thing. You guys look at our facility improvement list every year and you guys approve that. We have moved a lot of that to in-house, and there's two columns in there. There's the estimate and then there's the actual. If you go back and look at those, and it's because of Mark and his guys, as well as Kyle and his people and Dennis and their people. I mean, if we need to replace flooring, sometimes we have our people tearing up the tile and putting tile down, and it saves, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, but it saves money. So we're able to do a lot within budget. It's actually really exciting. Every month, we walk around with principals, or we'd meet in their office, and that, when I say we, that's Kyle Anderson, technology, Mark Fott, maintenance, Dennis Fott, custodial, the building tech and the building custodian. And we go through work orders, we go through our facility improvement list, and our facility improvement list 3 years ago was long. And now if you pull it up, and you'll see it again here in the fall, in the spring, we're down to manageable things. I want new tile in this pod instead of I need a new roof. And there's a lot of things that are coming down because of the work they put in. So we do that within budget. Complete construction on time. Our goal is this will be green next year with Branco. We still have DeWitt in this building. They're supposed to be finishing up soon, which is our goal. So that is, to be truthful, that could have been a green, but I kept it that way because we still have a punch list being completed in this building. Again, the target maintains 70%. We talked about that, and we'll look over that. Transportation, maintain greater than 90% on state bus inspections. This number is very important to us, and I'm throwing this out. When Missouri State Highway Patrol comes to do our inspections, that's not the number of buses that pass, that's the number of buses that pass the first time. And they come through and they'll listen to hear air leak, and we'll have to go back and fix it, and that number is not okay. I'm not saying it's okay. That's 100% of all of our buses pass inspection, state inspection. That's first time. What the inspectors have told us is we have one of the oldest fleets in Southwest Missouri. If we were to replace our fleet today, it's over $9 million. So we are working hard to replace that. Buses have gone, again, the assistant superintendent's meeting is always a great opportunity to get numbers. Every other district is kind of where we're at. Buses 4 years ago, before COVID, $84,000 to $92,000. Today, a new bus, $140,000 to $150,000. So we have to increase our budget there. We have to throw dollars at it. We did take money this year away from tech, and we took money away from maintenance to purchase 4 off-lease buses, which is a way for us to manage it. The first one is here or not? Next week. 18,000 miles, so it's a relatively new bus, but it's half the cost. So we're finding ways to make it happen. We're finding ways to rejuvenate our fleet. We're also working with Laura Akins and previously Jeff Simpson to bring in lease buses through the state. There is a reimbursement, 100% reimbursement for early childhood special ed buses and some other ones. So we're utilizing that as best we can. So that number is of great concern to us. We want every bus to be pass inspection the first time. This number is in flux, so we're going to come back and bring that to you. This number right here is unreachable, and that's no regular route student will ride more than 35 minutes. If we were just to take a student from South Elementary, do no stops, drive down W to Serenity Ridge, that's longer than 35 minutes in a bus. In a sports car, maybe you can make it, but not in a school bus. So we know that, and with the safety grant that Kim Fitzpatrick, Dr. Fitzpatrick has just finished up for us, we're getting GPS on our buses, which is going to give some tracking software. And I want Dean to come up and talk a little bit about the new cameras, the tracking software, and just those numbers that we talked about, how we can get close, but what we're kind of thinking about.
Yeah, thank you. With the grant that Dr. Fitzpatrick was able to get us, we're looking at redoing our entire camera system on our entire fleet. That's including GPS, where we can track our buses. That's a huge benefit to us, and looking at where our buses are in emergency situations. The first thing, that any first responder, law enforcement needs, where are you at? And a lot of times in a situation like that, that's not the first thing the driver's looking at. So they're looking out for our kids, right? So getting some GPS on it where we can track them. The video, a lot of our cameras weren't working as well as they could or at all. Before we started this, we were setting about half, and it's a huge cost. Just a camera system for one bus is about $2,100 for just audio video. If you want to add the GPS and the other stuff, you're looking at $250,000 is what it's looking at to upgrade our fleet to where we can be running where most of the other districts are. It's just something we've been working on for years, and working into your regular budget with talking about the cost of buses going up, parts and everything is going up like that as well. So it's really hard to juggle. So this is huge for us. It's something we wouldn't have been able to do without it. And then the cameras, the way they're set up, they've got 5 cameras. One's an IP forward-facing dash mount camera that'll have the whole field of view of the driver. So we'll know if there's an incident, we can know what happened. If somebody's running a bus stop arm, we can kind of get that information to the authorities so they can reach out and remind them what the rules of the road may be in that situation. We've got a camera that goes over the driver's area, which covers from this window all the way over to the front door. So any interaction with parents at a bus stop or something of that nature, or making sure that we're covered, our typical procedure, and that is we ask the parents to come to this window so they don't necessarily have access to the bus door. So having full visibility of that whole area is huge in that. And then we'll have 3 additional cameras throughout the rear of the bus to look at our student needs there as well. So really that's it on our cameras, what we're looking at getting. Falling back on that, no student will ride more than 35 minutes. That's just a yes or no. I was looking at some of the data today. I don't have last year's data because we were looking at yes or no, but currently we route about 5,500 students is what we have routed. And I pulled apart the percentages, and just under 94% of them are under that 35-minute ride time. Then you go out to 45 minutes, 98.5% of them are all under that 45-minute ride time. So that gives us an idea of what we can look at setting our goals for next year, or we can better track it where it's something that we can have more than just a yes or no on. So.
If you knowingly know that there is some that are 35 minutes, why do you have a goal at 35 minutes if you know you never can reach it?
Well, so that's where, so goals are to be sought after.
Right.
So, and, what's the old saying, we wouldn't have never got to, you have to set goals to reach the moon, right?
Right.
So if every goal we had was obtainable, we could just stay up here and show all green. But where we're at here is what Dean just said, is those are the numbers we're going to change it to probably. So if we hit 95 or 98% of the people will ride less than 45 minutes, then that's where we're going to be.
And that, yeah, right. And it'll be tiered. And the 35-minute goal, really, if we had every student who rode the bus under 35 minutes, that would allow that bus enough time to run a double route. Right now, most of our buses do run a double route. By that, I say they run a secondary and an elementary middle school, but we do have a few on each end of the things that is a secondary only or an elementary only, just because of those far reaches. So that 35-minute number would let you know that bus could be utilized 2 times instead of just 1.
And we're going to talk later in open at the regular session about the, thank you, Dean. We're going to talk about some of the rules that DESE says for routing. And one of those is they prefer you run double routes. You run a bus, multiple routes. So that's why, as Dean said, that 35-minute that's the time we have between dropping off from the high school or picking up at the high school and lining up at the middle school. So that's where we need to be. So I want to brag on this green down here. We sat many years ago in a PD with the tech department, and I forget the guy's name, but I'll always remember it was Give 'em the Pickle. And It's the simplest thing. A guy wrote, he ran a restaurant and there was a complaint and there was loss in money. And the bottom line is they took away the free pickle. And their customer service fell and their revenues fell. And his whole model on customer service is just give them the pickle. And we had that PD and that training, oh, Kyle, 10 years ago, maybe. And we have focused on customer service for that entire time. And Studer is really good at giving us the numbers and tracking it. This is one of the great things that they do. And when you look at our people, these are the customer service. We have, when you look at customer service, they want to know accessibility, accuracy, attitude, operations, and timeliness. And the fact that they're green in all areas, 450, 4.55, 4.26 and up, but look how many are over 4.5, which just says these ladies and gentlemen and their people are out to serve Ozark kids by serving Ozark kids, Ozark teachers, Ozark administrators. And I'm going to go back to where I started. Probably got the best staff in the state. So I love them. They do a great job. Any questions for me or for them?
No questions. Oh gosh. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for coming. I was wondering why you were here, so thank you for bringing everybody. We appreciate seeing you all. We really do. I know you had to sit and wait but we appreciate you being here and getting to see your face because we know you work so hard. So, and we really do appreciate everything and all of your years. Don't go anywhere yet.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Bathroom break.
Oh, no, I'm just gonna read what he gave us, so we're good.
Well, and as a earmark rate, all the tax entities, you guys are putting
citizens are suffering.
You guys have enough money.
Because if we reach the ordinance taxes for that year, you're gonna still pay them out. What's worth, I don't know, 3 cents a day or still a problem, okay? It's still giving, county's still giving money. You know, $80 is not gonna make a difference. Don't raise your assessments. Yeah.
Is that next business communication? Oh. Ready? Everybody ready? I'll speak while you are eating. Is that okay? I don't mind you eating at all. Okay, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Lacey. Lacey is in Dr. Carson's department, and she is the one that has worked tirelessly on working to get our information in here. She is also one of the ladies that has been converting to Power School. So Power School has been taking all the time, which it should, and this has been secondary. But I have been in her office numerous times over the past week, and she has always stopped what she's done and said, okay, what can I do? How can I change anything? So I was looking here and one of my colors is wrong. That is not on her, that's on me. I looked at it wrong and gave a color that shouldn't be there. But I just want to say that she, as well as everyone, has done a wonderful job with this. This process is very eye-opening. It does make you look at your data. It makes you think about what your goals are and what you need to improve on. And it takes a lot of work from the people at this table, as well as the people that just left. All of this information, it is unbelievable the amount of information that we have here, and it just didn't come overnight. So I just want to let you know how hard they've worked on this. Okay, so my area is in business and communication. And so I'll quickly go through this. And what I had, the people who work for me, I had them write it up on how these are calculated. Now, last year when I did this, it was based on the information from the previous year when I wasn't here. And I was like, we're going to keep it the same this year because it was such a learning year last year. And so we did keep it the same. Well, as we were reviewing this data, I'm like, okay, we're not doing this next year. There are definitely things that we're going to change for next year, or not, or it may even look totally different. Because I think, as a couple of you said, if you've got greens across the board and it's been that way for a couple of years, you need to change your goals. And sometimes I'm a firm believer that a goal, if you keep meeting it, is the way you do business. Okay, it is not a goal anymore. And so those are the things that we have to work on. Now, I'll tell you that I think this has only been, is this the third year for this? Okay, so as you're writing goals, you're trying to figure it out. What do you need to look at as you go on into the future? So this will look different next year, and I will work with my department on this. So I'm going to quickly, and I'm with you guys, I have to look through the top of my glasses to see that, and then the bottom of my glasses to see this. So I may struggle just a minute, just a little bit. I know, it's not good. All right, benefits. So ACA is the Affordable Care Act. Did we manage all part-time employees under 30 hours? Our target is 100%, because after a certain calculation, if they are working more than 30 hours, then we have to offer insurance under the Affordable Care Act. Okay, and so from our when we had the subs, when we had when we have part-time people, we watch this. Now, what she wrote was, the ACA total numbers are based on how many employees are part-time, hired for less than 6 hours a day for that month. For example, in September 22, this is September of 2022, we had 6 employees that worked more than their allowed hours for the month. That counts as 1 month against their ACA clock. They cannot exceed 3 months of hours over their allowance, or we are required to offer them full-time benefits. So this is still something that I have to go to Caitlin every time, explain this to me again, because even within this rule, there are other rules. And so we try to really, really watch that, but we did have 3 employees that did exceed their hours. Then you have target of utilization percentage. Healthcare is less than or equal to 85%. My color is wrong here. That should be pink. It should be the opposite way, because our goal is 85% and we had 88%, and this is provided by Cox on an annual renewal sheet. They do their calculations based on the medical loss ratio. They review all claim dollars from physicians, hospitals, and prescriptions. This percentage simulates how many employees are using their coverage to the max amount. Many employees do not use their coverage at all, but others will be well over their max. We don't want them to be well over their max. We want the utilization of insurance for claims to be lower, is what this says. So I have the wrong color there. And then on payroll. So we did delete some payroll from last year, but the first one is time clock approved by deadline, target 98%. This one's a little rough, and I am as guilty as the next person on this one. So when we are supposed to approve time, I know. I am personally, and when I talked to them, I said, please don't include me in these numbers. Please don't include me in these numbers. But so we are supposed to approve time by 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And if Barbara has to come and remind me or send me an email, Lori, you didn't need to get it done by 10 o'clock. That's in this calculation. Okay, because not only is it it makes me be responsible and accountable and not the payroll person to be responsible and accountable. But it is something that we try to work with, and it is something that we need to, it's an education piece for our employees and for our directors, and we need to do a better job on this. Part of this too could be if Frontline, that is who we use, sometimes when people log in or try to log in, the kiosk is down, or they have a hard time, well, then we have an employee that has to go and track down why something wasn't approved. So it's not always my fault. I hope. I cling to that a little bit, but there's numerous reasons. And we are having conversations with Frontline to try to work with that and try to make that better for our employees. W-2s issued correctly, target 96%. We get this, the past 3 years, I think we've had 100% on this. This is something that we don't need up here anymore. On occasion, we'll probably have an error, and that's not an error. When we're talking about errors, we're talking about something that we manually typed in incorrectly in this. But if there's an employee that did not give us, they left and they didn't give us the correct forwarding address, that is not counted in here. So then you have HR. And you'll see in a couple, or in one of these here in just a minute, I'll give you the number, and then I'll tell you that it's something that I'll change, and I don't know that I 100% stand by the number. So human resources, contracts returned by due date, target 100%. So we had 98.1%, which is pretty good. Out of a total of 721 contracts, we had 98% were returned on or before the due date. This indicates a high level of timeliness and responsibility among the contract recipients. So that was really good. Sub-fulfillment rate. Now this will be different next year, or this year actually, for our goal next year, because we are with PenMac now for the majority of this. So we're gonna have to look at this differently. So our target is 96%, and we had 89.4. In all honesty, that's pretty doggone good. The way it has been over the past couple years, that is really good. But our target rate is still 96%. So here's a few numbers. The sub-fulfillment rate for the 22-23 school year stood at 89%, with 1,641 positions left unfilled out of the required 15,454 positions. So when teachers are gone, you have multiple, you may have 75 teachers gone in a day, and then on a Friday, that's even worse. So if they're not filled, that's a problem. So we have outsourced to PenMac to try to help with this. So we're hoping that it will give us a greater availability of substitutes, and we want to increase the sub-fulfillment rate. So just think about that. We needed 13,813 subs in some kind of capacity. All right, staff evaluations. Staff evaluations completed and turned into HR by June 30th. The target is 85%, and we were at 82%. This is definitely something that, as we work through HR, we need to develop better processes and procedures on this, as well as education and training of employees and managers. So by the June 30th deadline, 82% of classified and certified staff evaluations were returned. It is worth mentioning that most of the evaluations, that sentence, I wrote that wrong. So most of the evaluations that came in late were from the classified staff. Now from the classified staff, most of them don't work in the summertime. So for them to get it in by June 30th could have been difficult. So once again, it's probably not necessarily an employee issue, it's probably a procedure issue and something that we can work on. So there were 903 evaluations were sent out, 162 evaluations turned in late. Safe School videos completed by the due date. We target 100%, and we had 99%. You as a board know how long those videos are. Okay, and they can sort of be mind-numbing, but it is something that we need to do, and we need to make sure that we do them. And we will get, oh, do we have to watch these? But let me tell you, 99% of having it done on time, that is amazing. Amazing. And that shows that our people, our employees know that there's value in this, and it's something that has to be done. So let's see here. It was 99%, and they are completed on or before the August 18th deadline. Now, I will tell you that if we had someone that had direct contact with a student and they did not finish their videos, they are not allowed to go into the classroom. They are not allowed to be with the students at all. We will set them aside and say, you finish this before you can do that. So just to let you know that. There were 1,020 videos that were sent out, 9 were late. So I'm just telling you, that's a great number. Great number. Staff attendance. So I had to really question how we have calculated this in the past and then how we calculate. And so this is how we've calculated it. We had an average of 97.97% attendance. That seems a little odd when I just said we had 13,000 sub days. Okay, a lot of that's for professional development, but it's also, we don't take into account attendance if they have vacation days. That's not deducted from that. If they have sick days, anything of the time that we give them is not deducted. So this percentage includes various types of leaves, such as sick leave, personal time off, and unpaid leave. I think this is, once again, somewhere we can start looking at our procedures and how we do things and how we calculate, so we can start making some differences in unpaid leave. How many people are taking unpaid leave? Is that really in here, this number? Should that be in that number? So we're going to work through that. So there was 1,516,000 hours available to work, with 30,777 hours of leave time used. All right, turnover rates. Turnover rate. Now this dropped from last year. I don't know if you remember, but last year we were really, really worried about turnover rates and that it was higher than normal. But this was a huge drop from last year. So the overall turnover rate target is less than 18%, and that is in our classified. 15.8% is what it was. Certified was 10.4%. So if you're thinking about that and you're hearing that all these teachers are leaving, it's not as bad as you think.
When you say last year, make sure you stress that's 21, 22.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. 21, 22. You think this, right?
This document is 22, 23.
Absolutely, yes. Joy. 22, 23 school year, yes.
Correct.
Yes, but you're right. So almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's see here. The main contributors to the turnover in certified staff was retirement and staff members accepting positions elsewhere. Analyzing the reasons behind turnover and implementing strategies to mitigate can help ensure stability and continuity within the certified staff. So we had 981 in total, 530 certified staff, 55 out of the 530, which equals your 10.4%. And then the certified was 100 out of 451, which gives you, excuse me, that's not right. Classified is 151. Sorry, I read this wrong. Certified was 100 out of 451, and classified 151 out of 981 is 15. That is, my numbers here are not right to make it equal to the 15, but those are the correct numbers. Sorry about that. So they went down. Bottom line, they went down, which is good. All right, communication. Newsletters. I will ask Jordan, what is the definition of a newsletter?
So currently we have the ones we measured were the ones sent out by the communication.
So it's not like a building newsletter. Okay, so these are the communications that go out on Facebook, or if it says school is closed, or.
Newsletters are our more newsletters. So e-news that comes out on Friday,
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
newsletter that goes out on Mondays, bond updates, staff updates.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are.
Okay. I knew that their definition of a newsletter was different than my definition of a newsletter, so I wanted to make sure. So basically, with communication, the newsletters, the target was 72 per year, and they actually did 87. Videos, their target was 84, and they actually did 78. So they have a 93% completion rate. Now, I will tell you that that is something that we're really focusing on, and with Jordan and Amelia, they're doing a fabulous job on that. That some of the videos that you have seen out, they're great. Written stories, the target is 96 per year and was actually 104. Could you give me the definition of a written story?
On the old website, you scroll to the bottom, it has like stuff that was with and you wrote stories. That's what we we call them headlines. And sometimes it's like 250 words, and sometimes it's like a paragraph.
Okay. Very good.
Like the items that you release to the media?
Yes. Not always, but they are included.
Okay. Social media. So the district, their goal for district and high school posting was 40 a month. And they look at this not 12 months out of the year, but 9 months out of the year, because school's not in session during that time. So they met that. And then their story goals was 720 or 80 per month. And so they met that also. I think, once again, some of these are hard. What are your goals for communication and to quantify it? And those are the things that we have to have discussions on and work, because once you have met these every year, you need to change your goals. Accounts payable. Here's another one that, once again, it is just how you do business. 1099s issued correctly, and we have 100% on that. Deposits, so deposits made correctly. Let me tell you, if they get a phone call back from the bank that a deposit was made incorrectly, and you can see it was probably 2. They're like, no, you're gonna have to prove it to me because we did right. So they really, really work on making sure, checking and double checking that everything is correct. And then cutting of checks outside of board approval is 98% is our target, and it was maybe 1 or 2 checks. And so what that means is there's something that has to go out now, and we have to write a check for that. It's always on your bill list, but it's just something that's not done in sequence with a whole bunch. It's just that one that we have to do now. And I can tell you that they're not happy when that happens either. Okay, and then the CFO. So some of these, and I wrote on the document that you have, are our CSEP goals. So when Dr. Carson was talking about CSEP, we have CSEP goals for the CFO and for business and operations, and some of these fall in that. This is also, which is something that we'll have to talk about at a later date, that a few of these fall directly into the superintendent evaluation. Okay, so all of these numbers will be compiled into the superintendent evaluation. And I will give that to you as soon as we have created that document. We worked on this, but this month we will compile all that so that you can see what that evaluation would have been or where we're at. And then we need to set new goals for the superintendent that's this year, and then you can work on the superintendent that will be for next year. But just to let you know that, for example, audit target is clean. The highest level you can get is a clean audit. And we met that 100%. That's one of them that goes into the superintendent's evaluation. Operating fund balance target of 20%. You try to keep 20%. And yes, this past year, it was, by the time we did everything, it was right at 25%, or with the various entries we had to make late. So yes, we met that. Capital projects fund, is there a balance of more than $3 million? Yes, we met that. These are items that roll up into the superintendent evaluation. I'm going to go to the bottom one. Transfer amount to Fund 4 of 2 million. Yes, we met that. Now, in the CSEP document, and I think my green should actually be a lighter green. In the CSEP document, we have it listed as, let's see here, that it's a 4 if it's 2.24, and it's a 5, which is 2.25. So this really should be a lighter shade of green, because we transferred 2 million. If we transfer more, it should have been the darker shade. But we still transferred $2 million, which is a board goal for the superintendent. Okay, now the cost of turnover. Now, this is the number I don't know that I can 100% stand by. I can't, because this is calculated how it was calculated a year or so ago. And the cost of the target, or the cost the cost of the turnover rate for the target should have been $393,000. That was based on 2 or 3 years ago. So I actually called Tammy last night, and she had left a spreadsheet that showed me how it was calculated. And I said, I'm not understanding this number. Where are you getting this number? And she goes, man, she said, how you forget things in 1 year. And I said, oh, I know. And so basically what it is, if you look on the spreadsheet, I think I have it, hope I did, but you take the number of personnel that we had times the total turnover rate, and then it was a dollar amount assigned. Okay, so how the dollar amount was calculated, which is what she couldn't remember, was this is how it's calculated. It's not that I will agree that it's the correct number to use and we'll do something different in the future. It's that it took 80 hours to onboard one person. And I said, I don't know that I agree with that. And she said she couldn't remember all the calculations, but there were other calculations in there, such as when new teachers came in, we had them all there for 5 days. They get a stipend of $500 plus all the hours that someone worked in there. So there was more than just HR in there, and payroll and benefits. There were other departments that were calculated in that. So this is better than last year. It is not as good as what the target was a couple of years ago. This is definitely a number that we need to get down and make sure that we understand how it's being calculated. So let's see. We also added here at the bottom the survey, the information that we went over last time that had all of the means for our survey, and we added those at the bottom also. And once again, that information goes into the superintendent's evaluation. That was quick. Hopefully less than 30 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to comment, and you tell me if this is correct or not. As I understand, the cost of turnover rate, the cost for that this year would necessarily be influenced by how many left the previous year, right?
Say that again.
The cost of the turnover rate,
for this year coming up.
yeah, or even, yeah, for this year, would necessarily be influenced by the turnover rate from the last year, for the number of people leaving from the last year. So you remember you said 2 years ago it was higher.
Yeah.
So that would make last year's
Lower. The
that
number
would
of
make
people.
last year's cost for the turnover rate higher, right? Because you have to replace all those people who left 2 years
Yes.
ago. So 1 year ago, you have more people that you're replacing. Am I understanding that correctly? So last year's, if you said there were lower number of people leaving,
Yes.
then this year's cost of turnover rate, we'd have fewer people new to replace those fewer people that left. So it'll be necessarily lower this year?
I guess I'm not following. So the fewer people that
So if-
leave that we have to replace, then that number should go down.
Right,
Yes.
right. So 2 years ago, if we lost,
We lost quite a few.
what?
We lost more people, right?
So
It was
then
higher.
1 year ago, the replacement cost would be more.
No,
But
you run
if
it with your
last-
turnover. You wouldn't count them again. You only count them the year you lose them.
Yeah, the year you lose them.
Your calculation on
Oh,
that
Yeah.
okay.
cost of
I
turnover
thought
rate
you were
only goes
calculating-
with that.
Okay.
So it's a
does not
1
take
year.
into account when you fill it. It's saying the cost when you do, that's what it is.
Oh,
And I
okay.
actually think it's probably right, taking recruitment costs and everything.
Really?
Mhm.
Just a number that I didn't develop or didn't have input in, so I need to make sure that I can understand it in my mind.
But it's
Thank you.
$200,000 less than the year before.
It's absolutely
Right.
200,000,
That's
right.
the
Yeah.
celebration.
Yeah,
From
absolutely, it's less.
Dark red to yellow.
Right.
I heard most of what you said. Sorry. Will you say
So
it again?
if we, the people that leave by the end of this year, those are the people that we would be replacing and would be in that turnover rate
Right, right,
for next year.
right.
And compared to other schools, how is our turnover rate? About the same or lower or higher? Or?
You know, on any given year, from what I've heard for this year, it's lower. It is, it's lower. But every school has a problem right now, problems you never had prior. Okay.
Thank you.
And once again, I just want to say that this is a great team. They do fabulous things. This is a great place to work. And everything they do is for the children, 100%.
Yeah, we can tell, it shows, and we appreciate all of your hard work and effort, not only in this, but it just shows that the work you put in every day, as Amber said during our town hall, we know you work very, very hard, and we appreciate it, and it shows. As well as those people behind you. Thank you.
I have one overall question about the CSIP. I know you're presenting numbers that were last school year. I gotta get my numbers right, 2022, 23. When will this change to 2023, 24? Gotta get the numbers right. Is it, I mean, when do you start rolling in that's the picture of it?
We will come to you with changes and some of our new goals next month.
Okay,
And then you will see this data for the 23-24 year next October.
okay. So it's hard when you're saying this year and last year, and it's confusing, but okay, thank you, I
So, and
understand.
some of those, like for my department, we've already started tracking those. Dr. Carson, I mean, with map testing and MPI, it becomes very difficult, but for us, we start September. There were 9 days in September, and we started tracking free and reduced lunch rate and work orders and all of that. So we're already doing that. And we've said a couple times, the new Insights program. So this will look different yet next year for Dr. Carson. For myself and Dr. Wilson, they'll probably look very similar to what you have here. So for him, his data is going to be much harder, and it's not that it's not there. The fact of the matter is we had Pulse, which was a SQL database that pulled information out of Tyler Sys. We then pulled that data up to Power BI. With the new system, the middleman is taken out, and Insights will now pull directly from Power School. But our goal, Lacey and Lisa, who again, if I can say their name every board meeting for the next year, that's not enough recognition. Those two ladies got Power School up and running, and now we've started the Insights piece, and they are, I mean, the demographic piece that I saw the other day, I can,
Powerful.
it's amazing. So, but that's yet to come. And but December, we should be 100%.
Okay, good. Do we take a break now, or shall we take a recess until open session, 7 o'clock?